context about this. So with the most recent survey that actually done by the Radar Property Industry Survey for the first half of the year in 2023, it stated that home buyer and financing is still the main challenge for all property developers. Are you agree? So if you agree, let's have some interaction here. So you can actually see the chat down below and just type in yes. And if you know, good for you. Yeah, so let's have, yes, let's have a little bit of interaction. Yeah, it's still morning. Yes, great. Yes, indeed, it's still, and in fact, it's 94% of the developer that actually participated in this survey. Yeah, so either there are way too many loan rejection or there are too many cancellations. So the book come in and then developer, I mean, your sales team had to release it and back to the market. So there are too many hazards. And as a property developer, okay, are you frustrated by the lack of visibility, okay, on your customer loans application? Would it be better if we could actually do something, pre-screen them earlier, okay, on their eligibility and also affordability, so they can actually save your time and you can achieve your KPI? So, fret not. So that's what you are here today with this morning and 1 hour webinar. Okay, let's find out how could we be better together. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, as said, if you have any question, you can actually use the meeting chat down below. Okay, and while the presenter is actually presenting, okay, and we will address questions at the later Q&A session, or we could actually, some assistant actually will answer it online, right? So let me briefly introduce our speaker today. So our first speaker is Victor, okay, and he is the Chief Business Officer of MHub and also the head of MHub FinTech division. So he has 20 years or more than 20 years of experience in property industry. So he understands Malaysia property sales and also mortgages, and he acknowledges the challenges that both sectors face, right? Victor sees technology as a solution to elevate the property and also loan acquisition, right? And Winnie, our second presenter, so she has 17 years of banking industry with 8 years management experience. Okay, and she spent the last 3 years as a mortgage broker. And of course, she actually established a relationship with developer, her client, real estate agents, and lawyer. So ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Victor. And Victor, the floor is all yours.
Thanks, Karen, and thank you very much for framing the conversation today so well. And I'll be touching on some of the things that you highlighted today. So welcome, everybody. I'm so happy to see all of you here today. And to those of you who are, berpuasa, I want to wish you a selamat berpuasa. And in advance, selamat Hari Raya, yeah, because it's just around the corner. So I hope that today's session will be fruitful and it will be able to help you to think about some of the issues that you are having with your property sales business, okay? So I'm going to share my screen right now, and so we go straight to it. Right. Now, we have titled today's webinar, The Most Comprehensive Mortgage Solution for Developers Yet. Now, that's a very bold statement, right? Because when we say the most comprehensive, what do we actually mean? How are we different from what the other offerings are like in the market? MHub has been doing property sales technology platform for the last 5 to 7 years. And over those years, we have discovered that when it comes to primary launches, that it is a very complex sales cycle that involves many different parties, right? You have lawyers, bankers, developers, agents, and then sales staff on the developer side as well. And then you have the buyer. So when we thought through this idea of coming up with a solution for mortgage, we had to think about how we can bring everybody together. And you will see from my presentation later on what I mean by that. And so the difference here is that as a fintech of a primary launch of property stocks, we have to be able to address all the different pain points that the developer sales market goes through. And that is why when we come up with this idea, we believe that in terms of the scope of work that we do, it is very comprehensive. Okay, so perhaps maybe as I go through this presentation, you will get a flavor of what I mean. And our tagline is, let your sales team focus on sales, leave the rest to us. And this is where, again, we will talk about how we actually are a big support system for your sales staff and the agents that you engage for your projects. All right, let's go straight to it. This is what Karen alluded to just now when she talked about what Radar was saying, and whether you agree with the president's survey and what they believe to be the issue today. It is very important for us to also understand whether you think this is actually true. But this is what he says, right? On current sentiment, 94% of developers in its survey attributed that having access to end financing for housing continues to be the main challenge for the for home buyers. And because of that, it is the case that 51% of developers are not ready to launch new projects in 2022, as they find that this is a very big challenge for them. So what does that mean? It means that the property sales market is recognizing that even as they are ready to launch new projects and as they are ready to be able to provide housing for a fairly young Malaysian market that is in demand for housing, that they find that they are not able to control one aspect, which is the end financing portion of the business cycle. They are not able to assure buyers that, when you book my unit, that you are able to get a loan. So this becomes very difficult for them to make decisions about whether to launch. And so that is basically the view of Radar. And then let's look at other pain points that developers are faced with, right? So management, sales staff, and agents don't have visibility on their customers' loan status. It is the one aspect of property sales that developers don't have control over. So what they hope to do is be able to engage panel bankers that are proactive and agents that are trustworthy and willing to be able to share reliable data with the developer, right? And so we know that this is a challenge in the market because everybody is working for their own personal interests, and sometimes those interests don't align. And the other thing is, because of that, sales staff and agents can't really focus 100% on sales. They are busy just trying to make sure that the customers that they work so hard to get is able to get a loan. So they will contact their banker friend, you will call up with the what do you call it? The panel bankers and try to get updates on the status. And then the developer all the while is knocking on their door saying what is happening to your customer's loan, right? And then finally, buyers don't really know which bank will give them a loan. They go on the basis of instinct or based on what they know about a particular bank, right? So the top few banks in the market, those are the ones that come to mind immediately. And those are not necessarily the ones who are the best fit for the buyer. So they have no financial literacy, and this makes the problem even worse. Now, I want to deep dive into some of the key findings that MHub has found within our system. Because we are an end-to-end transaction platform, we are able to gather data almost immediately. As long as the sales is done through our system, we are able to gather the data. And you may or may not be aware, but MHub actually has about 40% of all primary transactions in the market as of 2022. That means out of 10 units that were transacted in Malaysia from property launches, four of those units are from on the MHub system. So we believe that we have data that we can rely on to give us a good insight into how the property market is doing. So the first one I have here is the booking to sold number of days, right? And I've taken an average of those number of days that it takes to get from the time a customer makes a booking to the time that they actually sign an SPA. And in 2022, that was 67 days. So you're talking about slightly more than 2 months for the property sales cycles. And I know your own experience may be different. It may be lower, right? Or it may be higher in some cases. And so it varies from company to company and project to project. But this is the average that we have on our system, 67 days, which to me indicates that it is way too long. For me, I think our goal is to try and find ways in which we can get the sales cycle to be shortened. And I know developers will agree with me, right, that they want this to happen. Even agents want this to happen too, so that they can get to the next project as quickly as possible. Now, let's look at the loan rejection rate. So this is the loan rejection rate as in hold on a second, I can't see the screen because I am blocked by the view of all the different people here. I'm going to have to shrink it. Can you just tell me again, how do I do that, Karen? You go to more.
What do you want to do? You want to?
I want to reduce the number of people I can see on the screen. Rancangan tergendal sebentar, my folks. Please bear with me as I try to fix
Can
this.
you click on the participant? Go back to Zoom. Yeah.
Yes, participants. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I tell you what, never mind. I'm not going to share the entire screen. I'll just do this and then I can move my screen a little bit. I hope you don't mind. Okay. So the loan rejection rate is 56% in our system. Success 27, but of course we still have cases that are still pending. But if you even combine those two numbers together and assume that all the in progress, even you combine the in progress with the success, you still get only about 38%. So the loan rejection rate is extremely high. And we know that this is a problem in the market. And it goes back to my point that when it comes to sending cases to banks, it really is tikam, right? It's really just throwing a dart and hoping that the customer will get the loan from the bank, right? That is why the loan rejection rate is so high. Okay. This is another set of stats, units availability. Now, this what we look at is because we want to see how many units are available in our system after a project has been launched for more than a year. So I've taken projects from as far back as 2020 up to 2022, March. And we focused and zoomed in on projects that have about more than 100 units available after the launch, right? And this is the total number of projects, number of units, 26,615 out of a total number of 103 projects that have got 100 and more units available. So that gives us an average units of 258 units available for sale, even after launching for more than a year. Now, why is this important? Why is this a stat that is very important? Because when it comes to property launches and the way that the ecosystem is developed around mortgage, we know that banks support undercon project based on certain types of valuations, and then they are ready and willing to just go. It's only a matter of making sure that the customer is eligible, right? But what happens when the project is completed? What happens to all the other available units? They are still available for sale. But the challenge is in helping the customers get a loan, there is what we call market valuation that comes into play, and that sometimes it kind of clashes or is not in sync with the valuation given by EF. So when that happens, it becomes even more challenging for developers to sell their existing stocks. And so when we talk about rebates or we talk about bulk discounts, those become relevant tools that you tend to. Now, how much better would it be if you can reduce the number of available stocks when the project is completed? Now, I know this is a sweet spot for developers. I know that you want to be able to address this pain point as much as possible so that you can focus on new projects and not worry about your existing project. Okay, so these are some of the stats I want to share with you. It also gives you a good view of what the problems are in the market. Now, how can fintech help, right? So this is the question that I think is why you have on your mind, and is why you are here. Now, fintech has become very, very relevant in property sales. Why? Because we see a convergence now between the proptech and the fintech sector. So the real term that they have come up with right now to describe what it is that I am doing and what 𝗏𝗍 is doing is called real estate fintech. Okay, this is the term that you will be hearing more and more about in the coming years. Real estate fintech is in play now because of the challenges, as I mentioned to you earlier, right? That there are so many different issues relating to property sales when it comes to mortgages, right? So the developers want to find a way, and it's not just developers, it's also the sub-sale market. How can we bridge the gap between a person who's willing to buy a property with him being able to acquire the property, right? So we need that mortgage to bridge the gap. And that's why fintech has a role to play in this area. All right, I think I feel safe enough now to share my screen again. Let me just click that. All right. So what triggered this convergence? Lack of transparency into processes. That will be one of the reasons why, right? Because no one has a full view of what is actually going on with the customers that you have brought, worked so hard to get, right? You nurtured the customer and the customer has said, yes, I want to make a booking right now. but you don't have transparency into the loan process. Only your banker knows. And these are bankers that have received the case, right? And then poor data management is another area, right? Because when you talk about management, you need to have data that will be able to help you to make decisions. Without the relevant data, you cannot make decisions. Should I keep this unit on booked? It's already been 3 months. Should I still keep this customer? Agents want you to keep the customer because they want to reserve the unit, and they're so busy fighting to find a replacement because they have not told you that this customer actually cannot get a loan, right? So we've had customers who have this problem. I can't get the agents to tell me that this customer I'm going to let go, so you can release it to the market, right? So there's not enough data to make decisions. And finally, because there's so many parties involved, there's no transparency and there's no ability to make data. It's a slow and tedious process to make decisions, right? So this is where the 3 main points here I talk about is what brought about this conversion to become real estate fintech. And now we come to what MHub can do. Now, MHub, if you have worked with us long enough, you know that our mission is to bring everybody together. We want to make sure that when everybody's together on the same table, it's like when you are all on the same table, I can ask you questions straight away, right? I can deal with you. I know what's happening on your side. You can ask me questions. You can ask me and I can tell you what's happening on my side. So bankers, lawyers, agents, developer management, sales staff, all come together. And when we come together and we agree that these are the things that we will do and this is how we achieve our goals together, then you will work much more efficiently. You can make better decisions, right? Because you are working together and you are definitely better together. So this is our tagline. We keep on emphasizing to the market, don't work in isolation. Don't just look at your own KPI. Look at what you can do together as a team. And we are all working together to help this one customer to get this house that he's so hungry for, right? So when it comes to MHub, you all know about the prop tools, the PropTech tools that we have on our ecosystem and our platform. But I want to introduce you to our real estate fintech solution. And we have parked it under a division which we call 𝗏𝗍𝗃, right? So this is an offering that brings together our tech tools and also our team of specialists to come and give you support when it comes to the mortgage. So we are not just any mortgage broker. We are a digital mortgage broker because we use digital tools. And as Karen mentioned just now in her address, she said that I believe technology can be the one that helps to make property sales much faster and more efficient. So yes, I'm a great believer in digital tools, yeah? So then you ask, why 𝗏𝗍𝗃? What can 𝗏𝗍𝗃 do for a property project, right? What can you do? Well, I'll tell you first of all, and these are just snapshots, right? You can ask me questions later. You can get up-to-date loan reports. Now, why is this so important? Why do I need loan reports? If the market is doing so well, you are getting your loans in very quickly and you don't have to push anybody, then you don't need reports. But I will argue that that is not your experience. You cannot get enough data from your supporting cast, which is your agents and your bankers. You don't know what's going on. So you need reports, right? And of course, MHub has the tools to help you to get those reports. But unfortunately, some of this is a problem of adoption because sometimes bankers don't adopt the system or sometimes agents don't adopt the system, right? For whatever reason. So we cannot force them to adopt the system. But when you work with 𝗏𝗍𝗃, because we are the party that comes as part of your funnel from bookings all the way to the bank, then you can get the report, okay? So, and we give reports on our Loan Tracker app. If you're familiar with it, you get updated reports on your Loan Tracker for every unit that you have been able to create a booking for. And then management don't want to see all the information that's on the Loan Tracker, right? Because they don't have the time. They want to see a summary. Tell me what's this week been like. I want to know how many customers have gotten a loan. We have something for you too. And then for your customers, which are your buyers, your very important buyers, you want to make sure that they get the right banker, right? So they need help, but you don't have the time, nor do you have the expertise to find the right banker for them. So we have a pre-qualifying process with people like Vanny in our team who are got so many years experience. They kind of know what banks are the best for your customer. And because you bring everything together, right? Like I said, better together, you speed up the loan process. It is mathematical formulation, right? You do A and B faster, you get faster results. So that's what we do. That's why we ask you to consider Mortgage Hub. Now, what does the product flow look like? How difficult is it to onboard Mortgage Hub into this property sales? So as far as developers are concerned, it's very straightforward. All you have to do is just to do what you do best. Get the customer to make a booking. And once you have done that, get the customer to give consent. We are big on consent, okay? Because we believe that we want to make the system transparent, not just for the developer and the agent, but also for the bank. The bank needs to know that when we send cases to them, that the customer has consented. So this is one very key point that you have to get. You have to get the customer to consent that Mortgage Hub will assist them in helping them get a loan. Once you've done that, everything else goes back to Mortgage Hub. So Mortgage Hub will assign bookings. Mortgage Hub will conduct pre-assessment for all clients. You don't even have to assign the bookings to Mortgage Hub because Mortgage Hub is already part of the MHub ecosystem. Once you do a booking, we will get that data and we can straight away start to get our team to contact your customers. So we conduct pre-assessment for all clients. Then we provide mortgage advisory to the clients if necessary. And then we will communicate with the client and collect the documentation. Then we will, based on the information that we have regarding the buyer, we will then select the right panel of preferred banks for loan submission. But we don't stop there. We follow up with the bankers. We want to make sure that the bankers are engaged, that they push fast to get the LO approval, right? Or rejection. We know that not all banks will be able to guarantee that they will give us a loan, right? Even after we have done the pre-qualification. So we will make sure that we get the relevant information and then we will submit that information to developers, right? And then we would follow through even with loan LO signing. So we do everything from A to Z, right? So that you can be assured that there is someone who is managing this process. I want to show you some of the highlights and the benefits of using Mortgage Hub. The tools we use. We already have the tools. Some of you may be familiar with the tools that we use. Loan Tracker is a very popular one that we are trying to really get customers engaged with, right? But because of Mortgage Hub uses our own tools. So we will update every single case inside this Loan Tracker. And then we provide management reports. It's something you're more familiar with, which are spreadsheets, and that we provide on a weekly basis. And on the bank side, the banks have what we call a banker app. And this is a native app which allows bankers, wherever they are, they don't have to be in front of their laptop, to receive cases on their phone. And then they can start to get the documentation as well as start processing the loan. And they can update the status of the loan on the banker app. And you as a developer will be able to see that information on Showroom. All right, this is what it looks like. Their sales staff and agents can track their purchases, loan progress, as and when the status changes. So this is very important. And I know sales staff and agents, in the back of their mind, they're always thinking about the customers they've already got, right? And how they are doing with their loan application. But of course, they want to be able to spend more time on new sales because that's where, the incentive is. I want to get new sales. The more buyers I can get, the more money I can make. They can go into my pocket, right? So this part is more a service I provide to my developer, to my clients. But hey, now Mortgage Hub is here. I can leave it to them. But I also want to know what's happening to my customer's case. Mortgage Hub will update the status on Loan Tracker. You just have to go to your app and you are able to track the status, right? And again, this is an example of the management report I was talking about. You get a bird's eye view of the number of units that have been approved, the numbers that are pending, and which are the issues that you may have, which is not necessarily related to mortgage, but is related to your property sales. So we can become your eyes and your ears for customers who have issues with regards to the purchase of the property. And so we also go that far in getting the information to you so that you can take relevant action. And finally, and I think this is very important, is buyer support, where we provide financial literacy and advice to the customer who wants to buy the property, right? So we take care of the customers. We don't just pass the cases to the bank. We take care of them. We make sure that they get the best service possible. Okay. What do we need to do to start? If you are interested, right? First thing I would say is give me a call or give the team a call. And we would love to have a one-to-one session with you so that you can understand more. And I'm sure you have many questions in your mind, right? So give us a call. We can have that one-to-one meeting and I can explain more to you. And then you will ask the question, what's in it for Mortgage Hub? How do we monetize? And we can explain that to you too. And but if you say, yes, I want to start with you, what do you need to do? So, I mean, of course, you have to sign an agreement with us. We will work out an agreement with you, and then we become, tied to that project. And then all you have to, after we have onboarded a Mortgage Hub into your project, then you need to inform agents during training that developers will handle mortgages, because we don't want to compete with with agents when it comes to loans. When we compete, the issue becomes transparency again, right? And then it becomes confusing because banks will say, hey, I also got a call from the agent, or the customer will say, hey, my agent is already helping me. So if you want that process to be smooth and you want that process to be clean and accurate, then the best way to do this is to just let Mortgage Hub handle the loans for you. And we will provide support to everybody, including agents, right? And bankers. Okay, and then the second one is get consent, as I mentioned earlier, from buyers to allow MHub to manage customer loan application, including the submission to banks. That's it, right? So we need the consent, and we need we need the agents to be informed. Then we will have a briefing session and a training session for everybody. All right, then we will take care of the rest, right? As I mentioned, follow up with the customer, provide advice, collect documents, submit cases to banks, keep developers updated, and then inform developers when customer has a poor score. Now, the last thing is very important. As I mentioned, when you make decisions, you want data so that you can make decisions. If you know a customer has a poor score, why do you want to keep the customer booked into that particular unit? You want to be able to get him off the books so that you can focus on reselling the property to another person, right? We don't want to be so, oh, this customer is a customer, I already got a booking and I want to keep him as long as I can, because that doesn't help you with your sales, right? So you want to help them with the sales, you need data, and then from there you can make decisions. Okay, and then just to give you an example, some of the things that we do with your customers, we send them an email because trust and transparency is very important. There's a lot of scam going on in the world. So we do follow up with an email, and then we make specific references to your project to let him know that we are engaged by you, not by just any third party, right? And then after that, we will follow up with a phone call. And then when we can't get the customer, we get them to WhatsApp us back, when they are available. And sometimes we do need agents or sales staff to help us to make sure that the customer does give us a call back, because again, it's about trust, right? But we do everything we can to make sure that the customer is comfortable. And this is an example of the consent that we crafted that you can put into your sales booking form, right? Or you can just put it as part of the SMS consent pin. So we have two ways of being able to get consent from the customer. Our commitment to all developers in your projects is that we will pre-qualify the buyers, we will keep sales staff and agents updated on Loan Tracker, and then we will give you updated reports to the management. Okay, so this is our commitment to your projects. All right, I'm done with my presentation. I want to introduce you to a very, very important person, because without this person, then you will continue to worry about what's going to happen to my customers. I pass the cases to you, but are you giving my customer a good service or not? So we need a team of very qualified, good mortgage consultants. And to talk about this, how you can manage developer customers for greater control and conversion, I pass you now to my able colleague, Benny Ng. Benny?
Yeah, thanks, Victor. Thank you. Good morning to everyone. Okay, basically, Victor's have covered most of the basic points. So I'll go elaborating on the ways that we handle clients. But before that, let me have a brief introduction of myself. As mentioned by Karen, I was in this industries for more than 17 years. So I started fresh with the bank way back in 2006. So I ended up left the corporation towards end of 2020. And that's how I joined as a financial consultant here in Mortgage Hub. So basically, what can our team bring to you and your clients? Okay, we are a team of financial professionals. So how we do it, we first pre-assess your client. We will call the client first. When we get the contacts or the leads from the developers, we will first call them to interview more. Why do we need an interview? Because there are various of clients with different portfolios, backgrounds, documents are very different. So from there, from the interview that we've done, we will then review the credit history of a client. From the credit history, all these are prior to loan submission. This is just to avoid that the bank have key in or to jeopardize the secrets or the client's secrets itself. So we review their credit secrets by looking at their repayment characters, repayments capacities, whether their current commitments with these new commitments are okay to go in, or if after the whole analyzing of the documents, we feel that the customers are on the marginal, which the approvals might be only at the 30%, then we will further assess the clients again by asking more information such as, do you have any joint borrowers? Or do you have any other incomes that you want to support in? If with all these steps that we've done, we still feel that the whole cases are still weak, we will reject it upfront without submitting to the bank so that we can then guide the clients how to look into their portfolios, their credit scores to move on for the next submission. So all this have been done before a loan submission. When you pass to a bank, the bankers will just key into the system and look at the secrets. Then we have a remark in the secrets already that, look, this client, Mr. ABCs have keyed in a loan size of this, but in the system is still pending. So when the next case or the next banker were to receive the case, they key in again and they will look like, hey, why Mr. ABCs have so many applications in the bank, which is still pending. So why we comes in as a professional here is we pre-access your client first by getting all the information, the documents and everything so that we can have a bigger picture of the clients, whether they are suitable to go into the bank for submissions, or we still need to guide them through to look on their credit standing for now. So from there, as we see that there's a pre-access steps done, it then gives us a greater conversion because we know that before going into the bank, we already know whether the customers are possibility of approving is higher or lower, then we then identify. From there, after the information or all the assessment has been done, then we then identify the best options among the several lenders that we are actively engaged with so that we are able to secure and get the loan approved out further on. Victor's the next one. So from here, all the pre-access has been done, all the steps has been done. You can see that clients and yourself actually having a time saving here. Everybody's have their own quotas, own KPIs to chase. So we just want the customers or yourself can just come to us as a mortgage hub. We will be the key person to handle the whole process from A to Z, from the signing to the approval. So that, customers are only dealing with us, the developers are dealing with us to get the updates so that the customer does not need to repeat the process. Because there's a lot, when I was working with the bank, clients will call like, why your documents are so different from another bank? Do I need to give you this because another bank doesn't give me that? So it would delay the process of the whole application. So when it comes the client to contact with us as a key person, my position, we will get all the documents, all the mandatory documents that most of the banks will need it for the application. So from that, customer does not have a feeling that, I'm so confused that suddenly A bank called me, B bank called me, C bank called me. Then they can't make up their mind who to pass the document because when you come, especially when we have such a good technology as WhatsApp, my WhatsApp chat will keep flowing up. All the new messages will come on the top. The old messages will come from the bottom. So when you have a key person to handle this, it's actually benefiting to all parties where we only deal with one person, the clients deal with one person, the developer deals with one person. So that's our key position, our team handle in Mortgage Hub. Okay, thanks, Victor. I think we basically have the overall.
Thank you very much, Penny, for that very clear, concise explanation of what you do. Yeah, so I hope you've been able to understand what it is that we do and how we do it, right? So I hope that we will be able to engage you at some point in the near future where we can go and answer more questions that you have for us in the future. Okay, over back to you, Karen.
Yep, thank you very much, Victor, and also Winnie. And that's right, we could actually work better together, and this is our tagline. So you can definitely speed up the the processes, and also increase the productivity with the right tools and, of course, support, right? So yes, Mortgage Hub, we can actually track a loan status and also help your buyers increase their chances to getting a loan. So thanks beforehand, for all the questions. We have few questions. Right, so feel free to type in your question in the chat and we will answer them. In case we can't, we won't be able to manage the answer, but we will, our person in charge of a developer relation, actually, we will get in touch with you. So I have a questions, and even though this is answered already lah. Okay, so does Mortgage Hub, this question is direct to Victor, yeah? So does Mortgage Hub actually has tracker for legal side as well? For example, legal document like SPA, loan instruments, size status, schedule progress, payment and status, and etc.
Okay, thank you for that question. The answer is yes. We do actually have a tracker for lawyers. That's a separate package that we have within our Proptech system, right? Where lawyers can not only receive cases the way bankers can receive cases on our system, but they can also schedule appointments with the customer for LA signing or SPA signing. And then they can also keep the developer updated on the loan, on the status of the legal documentation. One more thing to add here is that, and I didn't put this into the slides, is that when the LO is already signed, we actually, Mortgage Hub will actually also pass the agreement to the lawyer in question. So this is also another service that we provide, right? So the developer will give us an instruction of what how they normally allocate the cases to, and then they will and we will do it for them. So that's also another session, another thing that we can do for you. But when it comes to the tracking, there is a tool that is available that you can actually use on our system as well.
Right. Yeah. So as mentioned, MHub, we actually provide an end-to-end suite of the app. Yeah. So our task, I mean, we are advocating to help developers to fasten the sales process. Yeah. Thanks. So the second question is actually for Vinny. Okay. For the loan differential sum to pay and rebates are given are not enough to cover. So can bank actually package that for the home buyers to bridge the gap?
Okay. I'll take this question. Basically, the banks doesn't have a catered package for a gap on the loan amount. But what we can do is, like we mentioned, while we were doing the pre-access of the client, we basically already know the in and out of the projects, whether there's rebates, whether they have discounted price. Then from there, we are able to calculate the exact amount or the, at least near possibilities of approval, whether the clients are eligible for the amount. And if there's a shortfall, we will look into the portfolio of the clients again. Because we are the bankers or we are the mortgage hubs itself, we already have the access of the client's documents. We're able to see whether they have savings, whether they have sufficient deposits towards the properties. Then we will give them advice how to work on the gaps, if the gaps were to kick in.
I see. Right. I think this is also from the same person, okay, and related to the previous one. What is the measure for a financial ability for loan application for buyer who is a company?
Sorry, so you want to know what the measure
How to
of
measure, yeah,
the
financial ability
for a company that's buying a property? Vinny, do you want to take that?
I'm sorry, Karen, my line cuts off a bit just now, sorry.
What is the measure? What is measurement for a financial ability for loan application for a buyer who is a company?
Okay, if companies, I believe it's a company loan under SMEs, they will basically, if you're looking at residential, the max margins that the guidelines be given by the bankers are always 60%. Okay, so if companies are to come in and buying a residential, we already have the measurements that the 60% was the maximum margins that we're going to allow on the borrowing for residential. Aside from residential, of course, the margins can be going up to 80 to 90%. That's the SMEs guideline in the market.
Right, thanks. Okay, and I think this participant is actually very curious. Okay, to know on the longest time frame or fastest or average time frame that can take a prospect loan approved. I think this is for Victor or Vinny. What is the time frame? Okay, and
you want to know the fastest time it takes to get a loan approved, right? I think that answer means it could be days. It could be like you can get loan approval within 10-15 minutes when the project is already, when the banker is very engaged with that, because they have a system which enables them to do that. But I think you're talking on average, it will take maybe about 2 weeks to get an approval, but it can be done faster, right? Once the documents are submitted, you can actually get approval within days. Okay. Yeah, Vanny, would you agree with me on that answer?
Yeah, it's basically based on our clients' cooperation on giving these documents, because some documents might be given you to payslips, and later on they might have left out the current month's up-to-date bank statements. That's how the dragging period comes in. But upon we go into the loan submission, which means full documents to the banks itself, we give us about 7 working days. As long as there's no KIB within the 7 working days, I think the banks are basically giving us feedbacks on the approvals, rejections, or what is the margin approved from there.
Right. Could it be actually related to the bankers' motivations?
Basically, on a mortgage hub, we already filter through the documents. We already, we already know what the client's backgrounds are. We are giving them the documents to process it. So it eventually will fasten up the process once the full documents into the loan itself. So that's the position why we comes in as a mortgage brokers here. We pre-access the clients. We get all information needed by the bank. Whether it's insufficient, then we don't do a submission from that. So when there's a full documents or sufficient documents to put in a case, then we'll put into the bank.
Right. So once we receive a case, and then immediately we will call them or schedule the interview. Is that right?
Yeah, usually it's all on the interviewing by phone because more or less clients are busy, and nowadays due to technologies, they don't really see us. So we do mostly on telecommunications, we chat or WhatsApp or whatsoever, but they will still comfortably tell us their background, they will share their information, their documents. From there, we are able to access it. So this I've been doing for past 3 years with my team. We pre-access before we do it a loan submission. That's how we can manage the conversion rates of the approval.
Right. So for Victor, are we or is the mortgage hub or mortgage services already present in all the launching events?
Sorry?
Yeah, are we all present in the launching event?
Or do we attend a launching event? We can do, but what we do is that when we are onboarded, we will visit the show gallery and we will have a briefing with the sales staff, and we will get to know the project better so that we are able to make sure that when we give advice to the customer, we know what we are talking about. The presence at the show gallery during the launch is optional. It's not necessary because when once we get the booking information, we follow up with all the customers. So we are not there to present ourselves as the party that is helping them with the mortgage, because that is like being there with the banks, the panel banks, right? So it can be quite confusing. So what we do is our conversation with the customers usually begins online. When we get the booking information, we will contact the customer and we will follow up with them. So that's where the conversation happens. Yeah.
Okay, how well we actually work with, partners, outsource agency? Right.
Okay, so that's a good question, because when you talk about agencies, they tend to have their own way of doing things. And yes, some agencies, some agents want to be able to make money on the side from that model. So we understand that these things happen. But what we do say is that because we are trying to make things better, right? And we believe that when we do this together, we are able to make everything much smoother and faster. We do ask the developer to decide that, if they're going to be engaging Mortgage Hub, then all cases should go through Mortgage Hub, regardless of how the agents feel about it. And I know some developers are very strict about it. So if an agent goes and finds their own preferred banker, right, without going through Mortgage Hub, what they will do is they will not give the incentives that they give to buyers. For instance, they don't pay for your legal fees, right, for your SPA. So that becomes a stumbling block for the agent, because the agent wants to help the buyer, right? They don't want to be accused of misleading the buyer. They will pass the cases to Mortgage Hub.
Okay. So pretty much we deal with developers a lot, right? But do we actually, do you all actually help potential buyers to get deposit financing, like personal loan?
Not at this stage. We are very focused on mortgages. In the future, I hope that we can add to our arsenal or tools different financial packages, because there are banks out there who've been talking to us and saying, we can also finance certain things that is not mortgage. So yeah, that conversation can happen. But right now, we are very focused on mortgage. We want to solve the mortgage problem first. Yeah.
Right. So is it comfortable to say like how many panel banks that's currently on board with Mortgage Hub?
Okay. So maybe to make things clear, any bank can use mortgage, can be empaneled into our system, right? Because we are guided by the project's panel bankers. We still have that in the system. So it doesn't mean that because you have panel bankers in there, just because you are passing it to Mortgage Hub, panel bankers cannot get involved. So we do allow panel bankers, have panel bankers in our system, but we have a program. We have a program that I will tell you more about if you are interested, where we also do have preferred bankers that we introduce into the system.
Right. So it means we can work together with their panel bankers.
We work with panel bankers, we also work with some preferred bankers. And we explain to you why we have both.
Right. And earlier in your presentation, you touched a little bit of unsold units, right? So for developer unsold units, right, any ways to monetize these inventories to produce, a stream of income? Is there any financing package that the bank offers for these unsold units?
No, so the banks will offer whoever is interested to buy, but of course they have to be pre-qualified, right? So there are things, there are groups in the market that is able to buy en bloc a certain number of units, right? But of course, it will come at a very special price. And that is obviously a negotiation between the developer and this group of buyers. So there are ways, but if you're talking about an individual who wants to buy a unit, it doesn't matter whether it's under con or it's completed. The pricing is already fixed. But usually when it comes to after completion, and if there's a lot of available units, the developers do tend to offer some attractive packages as well. But always the issue here, or I would say oftentimes the issue here is the valuation. So that's an area that is a market issue. We don't have the solutions for it. Some banks can provide that solution. We have a relationship with some of those banks, but perhaps that would be where the conversation would go, right? To find these banking solutions to these things. And we can advise you on that as well.
Yeah, interesting. So how do we deal with the valuation report, either it's new or sub-sales?
No, at this point in time, all valuations are done by the developers and the banks, right? So they have their own valuation. Think of us as the platform or the funnel for us to be able to get those cases to the banks, from the developer to the banks, and to update the developer on what is going on. Okay, so we are that. We don't change what is already decided by either developer or by the bank. We can advise the developer on the pricing, but by the time Mortgage Hub gets involved, usually the price points are already set. Okay, and then so we will have to have another conversation about price points. You will have to talk to our product team when you talk about onboarding a new project. That's when you want to talk about the price points, right? So that's another conversation that can be had. But when you engage Mortgage Hub, you're already ready to go to market. You already have a fixed price point, right? And so that one, usually we don't interfere with, we don't change. We work with what you have.
Right. So, we still have a lot of questions, okay, but now we have 8 more minutes, okay, to go to 12. I don't want to interfere your lunch hours. Okay, maybe I just sum up this this webinar, okay, by putting one last questions, right? And we have few questions related to how to start with Mortgage Hub, okay, and what will be the cost, whether it's a monthly subscription, okay, and maybe you can go, Victor.
Have a chat with us. I can tell you it's very affordable. Okay, if you understand anything about mortgage brokering in the market, it's usually based on success, but usually the fees are very high, right? Because it's very time consuming. It's a lot of effort to follow up with customers, collect documents and stuff like that. So usually it's very high. But because we have a program that involves not just developers, but also banks, and we have a relationship with banks, we are able to bring down the cost to a very attractive level so that, developers don't have to feel like it's going to cost them an arm and a leg just to engage Mortgage Hub. I can guarantee you that is not the outcome. You have a discussion with us, we will go into more details with you on that.
Right. So any last word before we end?
No, you can drop us a PM or message, or can call us. I think we have emails there that you can email it to us if you have any inquiries. Then we'll further access from there. That would be great.
Okay, thank you very much. Yeah, so once again, thank you very much for tuning in this 1 hour webinar, and I hope we actually answered most of your questions. And just in case you actually want to know more about MHub solution, you can actually talk to the account manager that actually invited you to join, our developer relation, or you can actually directly contact Victor or Vinny And we actually put in the email address here. So Victor@MHub.my, Jasmadi@MHub.my, or Venny@MHub.my. Okay, yeah, so you can actually see their email address in the background, right? Yeah, and we also appreciate if you could quickly click into a ring in the chat, okay, to give a feedback, a short feedback, so how we can actually improve for this webinar. Right, so we thank you very much once again. I hope this is actually very fruitful webinar. Right.
Thank you, everyone.
Yep, thank you. Thank you very much. We will still stay in for about 5 minutes. Okay, so you can actually click into the form. Thank you.